What's going on, guys? Ocean here at the final dungeon in Woodstock, Georgia. I'm here with my man Edgar Gonzalez, who just finished first place in our $500 cash tournament, playing this deck. Edgar, talk to us about the deck and how you felt about the matchups.
Hey guys, so I'm playing Paleozoic frogs. People seem to have forgotten this is a deck, so it's good at catching people off guard. People seem to think that it works like Ultrageist, but it has its own play style, really. So, without further ado, I guess let's get into it.
Let's get right into it, man.
Okay. So, this is more of a turbo build, so it's built to bring out Totally Awesome as soon as possible and as much as possible. So you want to overwhelm your opponent with that effect, as well as taking their cards so that they can't get a card advantage off of it. So we try and cut back on stuff like hand traps. So the only hand traps that I play are, for monsters at least, there are 3 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This is, in my opinion, the strongest hand trap in the format. Drone Elect does a lot, but Goki can still make the U board without going through their deck anymore with the Drone Lock, so this can actually stop them from building the U if you time it just right. It also hurts pretty much all the other meta decks in the format, so I play 3 of that. But this is frogs, so obviously we're going to be playing 3 Swap Frog. I don't think that I need to say anything more. The Frog engine is pretty much well defined way into the future here. It's just 3-3-2. But in addition to those, I'm also playing one more frog, Flip-Flop Frog. Occasionally you will need another name to search with Duke Frog, and this acts as another extender. This is a different name that you can add from deck or grave to hand with this, or you can use your additional normal summon of a frog with Swap Frog to summon Flip-Flop Frog, so it gives you an extra body on board as well. It also is an extra target to banish with Ronin Totem, as well as the fact that you can special summon it onto your field with Totally Awesome, set it face down the next turn, and then flip summon it to return monsters your opponent controls without targeting it. It's also really good to set it face down because no one thinks you're playing this, no one knows that this card even exists, so they always assume whatever you set face down has 2,000 defense, so they don't attack it unless they have something stronger than that. But with your back row, you're usually able to stop them from summoning anything too strong, so they don't attack this, and next turn you just remove stuff off their field with it. But that's the frog lineup. There's also 3 Grado Slime Jr. This is part of the turbo build. It's a level 2 water aqua. The tuner part's kind of irrelevant. We don't play any synchros. We tried playing Gradle Dragon, but it was just a pain to bring out and usually costs too many resources, so we don't play that. If it's destroyed in battle, you special summon another Gradle Slime from your deck. It's any Gradle, but we special summon juniors, so it helps keep card advantage on board. And then just having 1 in the graveyard and 1 in hand, it gives you a instant Toad every single turn. So once Toad dies, you just grab it back, summon, special, keep going from there. So that's these guys. We're also playing artifacts in our deck, playing 2 Scythe, 1 Mortal Attack. The 2 Scythes are very good for stunning your opponent because this is a slow deck. Even though it's turbo build, you're not able to kill your opponent most of the time, so you want to slow them down and stop them from playing, so that's what the Scythes do. Moral Talk also helps to out problem cards, so sometimes you need to pop a card to live or to disturb their plays, and that's what the Moral Talk does. But that's it for the monsters. 18 monsters. 3 spells, it's just the Pot of Desires. As I said, it's a turbo build, so you're trying to draw into your combo pieces. We're trying to keep the deck as small as possible to try and see Swap Frog as soon as possible in the game. To go with the artifacts, obviously Sanctums. I don't think I need to say anything else about that. 3 Gozen match, arguably one of the best floodgates in the format right now. It stops your opponent from going to the extra deck in 90% of the cases, so you want to play this in frogs. People play Rivalry. I'm against Rivalry only because it doesn't prevent as much as Gozen match does. You can side it, sure, for certain matchups, but Gozen does more than Rivalry in the current format. Next we have 2 Heavy Storm Dusters. I needed more spell and trap removal to be able to destroy the artifacts because I was seeing them too much. This also helped out the Ultrageist matchups and other heavy back row matchups, so I put in 2 Heavy Storm Dusters. Triple Impermanence, the only other hand trap in this deck, so we have 6 hand traps, gives us about a 60% chance of opening 1 hand trap in our opening hand turn 1. I think it's like 50 some odd, but still, that's better chance than no chance at all to see either an impermanence or a ghost trigger to disrupt your opponent. Setting it face down to negate spells and traps is also very strategic, so you also have to think a lot when you play this card on negating spells and traps and what your opponent's psychology is and whether you can use it to negate their spells and traps. Paleozoic lineup, we play 3 Olenoides. Best one for activating the artifacts, but it also is good for disrupting your opponent and destroying their field spells and such. I would always play 3, never any less, unless maybe the format was suddenly devoid of spells and traps. 2 Leonchoila, I was playing 1. I kept playing Desires, banishing 3 Swap Frog in my Leonchoila, and I was getting sick of it, so I bumped it up to 2. And it kept happening today. I kept banishing 3 Swap Frog and 1 Leonchoila, but fortunately I had another one to put the Swap Frog back and be able to use it. So, 2 of this is alright. I could see a reason not to play it. I could see a reason to only play 1. So, this is up to you, really. As well as some of the other Paleo. I wouldn't recommend most of the other Paleo. Morelia, yes, if you're trying to build a heavy trap deck version. I would play 2 or 3. I wouldn't play just the 1. The Canadia, I don't like it. I can see why you would play it to Book of Moon something. If you need more Paleos, I guess go ahead. But in the format, we're most concerned about Goki and the U board. So we're playing 3 strikes because you need to be able to survive the Goki U board and kill them. So with only 2 cards, and the only 2 cards you need to break the Goki U board are Gozen Match and Solemn Strike. As soon as they rip 4 cards out of your hand, you're left with 2, and hopefully they're these 2, because if you have these 2, you'll live. You'll flip Gozen on their turn, they'll negate with Trigate, you negate the Trigate with Solemn Strike, and suddenly they're out of cards. So they're down to like 2 monsters. So you can live and make a comeback off of that. And hopefully maybe you even have some Paleo in the grave or Frogs in the grave to go off from there. But Triple Strike, it works against most of the meta, and half the time people don't have an answer to Strike. So I say half the time. That's just if they side in red reboots, then it happens. And then other broken one-ofs, Solemn Judgment, because you want to stop the evenly matched, as well as just other power plays. An Imperial Order, just because this card's the most broken continuous trap card in the format right now. Arguably, maybe Gozen is slightly better, but
and that was 40 cards, right?
42 actually.
42.
I wanted it to be 40. I tried cutting back. I needed to find space for the artifact engine, so it became 42.
All right. All right, so let's take a look at the, what are we doing first? Side deck or extra deck?
Let's do extra deck just to go over it. If you're not playing 3 Toads, you're a really bad player.
Standard.
1 Opabinia, 1 Animalakaris. This comes up a lot. People don't play it sometimes. No, you play this card. It's very powerful. 1 Opabinia, only because of Master Rule 3, it takes up the extra monster zone, and this usually is not good unless you desperately need to search one of the other Paleozoic trap cards and help something. Sometimes you'll banish stuff with Desires, and you'll need to search the Leonchoila and to be able to continue your plays, and that's when you'll do this. This comes up a lot. You'll have every now and then you'll have a board with a Mistar Boy, Totally Awesome, and an Animalakaris. If you have that, you're probably winning the game. So, Cursed Javelin. This is an extra generic rank 2. Because these 2, this is generic, so that's fine, but it needs a trap card to be useful. This is generic, so that's okay, but it's 3 or more. So this one's good for whenever you steal your opponent's level 2s, just mostly in the Ultrageist matchup. You'll be able to do this. It also outs problem monsters. Sometimes, for example, I had to face a Crystal Wing that was indestructible, so this changed it to 0 attack, and you were able to run it over. But it's just for outing plays. Mistar Boy, 2. I would recommend 2. 3 if you have the extra deck space. But 2 is a very good number. I wouldn't just play the 1. You need 2 for sure, because you're able to put 2 Mistar Boys in a Toad. That's exactly 8,000 damage. Borlo Dragon. That's Borlo Dragon. What more do I need to say? Unicorn out stuff as well. Phoenix outstuffs as well, but this is actually useful for a couple of reasons. Sometimes you need to clear the extra monster zone, so you'll link away with whatever's in there into this, and then you're thinking, well, now it doesn't have a down pointing arrow. Well, you get rid of it and put the mermaid there. Now you have a down pointing arrow, and then you can make your toad there.
Right.
The goblins in there, I've done a few silly plays where I've normal summoned my swap frog, been able to get my Totally Awesome and the Gradle set up, and then add the Gradle to hand by linking it away and then summon the Gradle, and doing some really big board shenanigans, all because I had a Nightmare Goblin. So it is useful, but it's mostly there for cherries targets, just to hit the opponent, and I'll explain that later. One Chimera Tech Mega Fleet. If I'm facing against Cyber Dragons, then I don't have to side in the Cyber Dragons to use this right away. I could just use their Cyber Dragon. Same with this. I was actually having a bit of a hard time with the Cyber Dragon matchup before, so I didn't want to devote more side deck stuff, so I devoted one extra deck slot to this, and this actually won me my match against Cyber Dragons today.
Nice.
I just ate up his field because he happened to have a Cyber Core on the field and 2 other monsters, so I made it 3,000 attack Fortress Dragon that he couldn't use as a fusion material. So that's it for the extra deck. Now for the sides, we have our Winter Cherries and our 2 Cherries targets. Cherries are good only against the Goki matchup, Sky Striker matchup, and I guess Paleozoics I could do it as well. Or anything that tries to do the U board, because I have the Nightmare Goblin. So if your opponent has an extender, then you're going to hit the Nightmare Goblin. But if your opponent only has 2 cards to make the Isold, then you hit the Isold. So that's essentially the theory behind putting the Nightmare Goblin in there as a cherries target, is if you hit the Nightmare Goblin, then they end up with a weak board as compared to the full U. We're doing 3 Cyber Dragons, that just nom stuff, so that's pretty obvious. 3 Inspector Borders, so sometimes you need to stun the opponent, and this will do it. You just put a big beater on board with back row, and your opponent can't handle it sometimes. So that actually won me my Mech Knight invoked matchup. 2 Mind Crush, outs evenly matched as well as other decks that search. Magic Deflector, outs continuous, and field spells is the most important thing. It could essentially be used against Goki if you have the goes in, but I never sided it against them. But it's also useful for the Twin Twisters being dealt with.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's it, guys.
That was the deck list. First place, like I said, $500 cash tournament. How do you feel, Edgar?
Feel good.
Feel good?
It's a good time.
Good. Well, I mean, thank you so much for this deck profile. It's fantastic. Proving that you can still play this deck in 2018.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I love frogs. Since frogs were first around, they've always been fun, and I just kind of stuck with it.
All right, man. Well, like I said, again, thank you so much. Guys, appreciate you watching. This is Ocean with Redline Gaming in the Final Dungeon. We'll see you next time.